call a meeting to order, the June meeting. Roll call, Lonnie's on her way, David and Maria will not be here today, they're conflict. Call for a motion to approve the agenda as it is. Anybody who'd like
Call to
to?
approve.
Thank you. Second on the approving the agenda.
Second.
Thank you. Public invited to be heard. Oh, they're over here today. I'm supposed to spend that. Told you, you had to sit over here. She said, no. Anyway, welcome. Anything you'd like to throw at us this morning? Not yet, okay. Approval of previous month's minutes. Any changes as deletes?
Let me pull it up real quick. I think we have one change. Trying to find where it's at. Well, two changes. So one is the presentation. It says June 30th, or well, actually, when this was done, it was still June 30th, I think, right? So that, but the other one was the proclamation. If I can find that. Where's the proclamation? Trying to find the proclamation.
That's on page 377.
Oh, there it is. Yeah, proclamation. So well, let me ask you this question. Should we adjust the minutes or just know that after these minutes, after this particular meeting, it became apparent that we wouldn't be able to do it on the 19th, and that instead we just got a written proclamation, which I have a copy in my little hands, and there was no presentation that was going to be made to City Council.
I think we should make it part of today's minutes.
What's that?
This is correct when we did it, so we'll just put it in today's minutes.
Yeah, more or less.
Yes.
Yeah, that's fine.
Same with the area and agency, there's a comment I'll make, but I can make it today's, part of today's meeting. So anything else to approve the senior citizens environmental minutes of May 6th? Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Eric? Second? Thank you, Martha. Motion approved. New business, external service updates.
So I think that's maybe me.
I think it's you.
So I'm Jen. I'm
Hey.
one of the assistant city managers here at the city, and my portfolio is external services, which includes human services and senior services as part of that. And Christina asked me to come. I know that there was an interest in connecting with Harold, and this is a really busy time right now because of getting ready for the budget and all of those activities that have to be done in terms of preparation for the budget. So I thought I would give a little bit of information about where we are with that process, and then maybe there's some questions that you have. And can talk a little bit about what happened last night at City Council, because they were talking about the follow-up to the retreat, but also kind of the component of that had some level of boards and commissions. And Christina can help me with that because she was watching the meeting as well. So as I mentioned, it's a super busy time right now for the mostly the finance staff, but obviously the city manager as well. So all of the operational budget requests were finalized or put into the system and ranked by all of the assistant city managers. So all of the divisions gave their requested budget requests for the next year, and then all of the essentially the division managers, like Christina, ranked all of those, and then all of those came to me. So my portfolio is Parks, Recreation, Open Space, Library, Museum, Golf, Human Services, which is all of the human services, senior services, and youth and families, and the support that we do for nonprofits, and then facility maintenance, the airport, transportation, park, and planning and development services. I don't think I missed anybody. So then I rank all of those.
And housing and community wellness.
Housing and community wellness. So I rank all of those requests that we get, and then they go into the system that Harold sees. So what's happening right now is departments are have put all those requests in. The budget office is meeting right now to talk about the 2027 revenue estimate. So, you know, in terms of a city, we only have so much pie. That's the city budget that then we can allocate to all of the slices of the pie. And so that work is happening right now. What are those expected revenues to come in for the 2027 budget cycle? And it makes a difference for us about whether or not if there are dollars for new programs and new initiatives and that sort of thing. Earlier this year, all of the capital improvement projects were also put through the system, and not next week, but the week following, all of the departments will make presentations to the city manager, and we'll be looking at those capital improvement projects, but also the operational budget requests. And then the budget office will, and the city manager reviews all those requests, makes funding decisions based on the available revenue and what the requests were. So it's looking at the whole city across every division. And then in August, there's a final decision that then is presented to city council. So at the city council meeting, presentation of the proposed 2027 operating budget and the capital improvement program that looks from 2027 to 2031 will be presented at the very beginning of September. And then there's city council meetings for the CIP presentations that happen from September 8th to the 22nd. So they have kind of a band on this of when that happens. City council meeting on the 22nd of September is a budget presentation, public hearing on the proposed operating budget and CIP. And then September 29th is the final direction from city council, second public hearing on the budget. And then October 1st is the last day for the city manager to present the proposed budget and budget message to city council. And then it's finalized in October. So I wanted to give you a sense of kind of what's been happening related to that. And then, I think in terms of all of the work that is happening across the city, there's, the foundations of all of that also are not just revenue from sales tax, but all of the fees that we do for services, which is in a different part of a different portfolio for a different assistant city manager, but the electric rates and utility services, the water infrastructure, next light, those kind of components are also part of the budget. The city is working on housing projects, the First and Main project, the extension of Kaufman Street. There's continued emphasis on Right Longmont, looking to do some of those redevelopment projects that have been a community goal for a long time, like the Sugar Mill. We're looking to see how the Sundance Festival in Boulder plays into whether there's a benefit here. We know that will be the spot for volunteers. So it's kind of a volunteer village that'll be here with kind of some hotel blocks that for those folks who will be volunteering for the festival. So they'll be traveling back and forth. And then obviously there's lots of other kind of transportation projects that you've probably seen some construction happening. There'll be additional construction that's happening this year and then into 2027. And then in terms of the human services funding that goes to those nonprofits, that conversation is going to be happening next week with City Council. Their council has given some direction about the different ways that there's more need than there are dollars, like I think we all know, and so increasing requests for those dollars, and City Council is going to try to tweak that the way that those are allocated in that granting system, and so that conversation, which has happened a couple of times at City Council, is going to be ongoing next week. I think that's my spiel. What questions do you have for me?
The, departments you mentioned, water, that actually create revenue,
Mhm.
are they self-sustaining with the revenue that they create, or do they need funding also?
Yeah, so in general, those are enterprise funds, so they're taking care of all of their, it works kind of like a business where the fees for service are paying for the service itself and those investments that have to happen for, for utility lines, for example, or maintenance of those utility lines. And so there are a number of those that work that way in the city. And I would be hard pressed to come up with a list of all of the
No, no.
enterprise funds off the top
Don't
of my
want that
head,
kind of
but I
detail.
can.
Does the, for example, let's say power needs new lines, are they again self-sustaining for the monies? Okay.
Yeah.
So the other revenue for the city comes from taxes.
Yeah.
What else provides revenue to the city?
We get grants. There are sometimes flow-through dollars that come from the state or the federal government for various components. But by and large, it's property tax and sales tax. And then if you look at the big more the whole budget, all funds, there's a lot that is generated by fees, but those are for those particular like your water rates are going to the water fund.
And the change in it's going to the federal level, the fact that Colorado's having a budget deficit, does that affect funding here at this point?
There are things that are impacted. For example, when the state was trying to balance their budget, one of the things that they did was, and I would have to look up the exact number, but there used to be a share back for marijuana revenues that were from the state, so there was a share back, and it was reduced last year, and in this legislative cycle, they basically went to zero. So all of the marijuana revenue that we have in our budget is from local sales, but there used to be like a component that came
I
from
think
the
it
state.
used to be 14%
Yeah.
is what I remember.
Yeah, so that's an example. There's a whole, there's lots of different things, but that's one example. I think where we're probably seeing the most, and Christina can probably speak to this better than I can because she's closer to these details, is where some of those services that were previously provided by the county, for example, where those are not happening. So it's not necessarily that the city has dollars to take on those services that were provided by a different part of government, and we also recognize that there's a need. So there's some working to balance how do we continue to make sure that people are served in the community, and we don't have all of those dollars so we can't take on all of those programs that are not happening in other places. And if we did, it would be a budget request for that increase. So the way that we do the budget is, essentially there's a base budget for operating, that is what was the base operating budget for last year, and then anything that's a cost increase is driven by inflation, for example. So it costs 5% more to have this particular service, that's a level 1 request. But anything else that's where we might be asking for dollars to provide another program that was provided by another agency before, that's a new level request. And all of those level 2 requests that would be ongoing are evaluated, and I think for the last couple of years, basically none of those level 2 requests were funded because there wasn't dollars to do it.
I don't think we received, that we got any requests in our department last year because of the economy, the need, And so Ronnie works closely with the county, Hilda Samora Hirsch works closely with the county, and as they are going through layoffs, programs closing, shutting down after decades, staff here is working to make sure that we can use the resources that we have to serve Longmont community members. So that's kind of the dance that our division managers are doing right now. In terms of enterprise funds, I think somebody had a question about that. It's water, wastewater, stormwater, electric, and broadband are 5 enterprise funds.
Well, and did you say airport?
And airports,
Yeah.
yes.
So it's a that one's a little bit more complicated, but,
Right.
but the airport.
But that's,
as well.
yeah, because there's six, if we include airports.
Any other questions?
Yeah, you're saying that there's more need than funding. So grow, has the staff or circulated and see who's doing what, or they could merge or whatever, whatnot, to help it, because you're doing this and doing that, double duplicating what they should or shouldn't do, and should.
I think we're doing that a lot, for sure, and I think Christina is, I'll just toot her horn, she's the best at it. And she really has been looking at how can things be restructured with, and how do we work with other parts of the organization to make sure that we're providing the best service that we can. And I think, and there's probably additional work to be done there for sure, and we are working on it. And I think, what I hear both the city manager say and city council say is that we really want a systems approach, so looking at the system as a whole, and maybe Councilor Popkin can provide some other insight there, but I think that there is an emphasis on how do we work together and make sure that we're not, just doing one slice when we know that there's probably synergies across the organization.
And I'd say that within human services, that comes very naturally to us in terms of the systems work. We're made up of social workers, of educators, of clinicians, and so that systems approach, whether we're working with a family or a community, and now in this case, that Harold has given the directive that we need to do that as a staff, has come really, really naturally and is a good fit for us, and so we continue to do that, and I continue to have those conversations. Ronnie and I talk about it to say, okay, what do we have going on? What, staff is stretched so thin. What kinds of changes do we need to make so that we can be the most effective with less, and not burn out our people that are doing very important work.
I think what speaks to that directly in terms of tangible outcomes is, to my knowledge, and correct me if I'm wrong, Jen, on this, the city has not had any kind of furlough or staff cuts over the last couple of years when you've seen Denver, Boulder, others at Boulder County actually cut back on staff because of the budget issues, and so that speaks to how we're reorganizing and kind of pulling people into different things. And as programs or budgets shift around, the types of people and programs that are layered on top of each other in terms of actually completing the things we're still trying to do. We aren't maybe hiring to the extent that we would want to have more staff, but we're also not cutting there, and that's a function of moving things around strategically to kind of manage for and adjust for different budget circumstances.
And to that, I would say that we've been really careful not to use one-time dollars for ongoing expenses.
Mm-hmm.
So one-time dollars could go to one-time expenses, and I think, that's just a philosophy that we have, because we don't want to be in a situation where we've made these plans that are ongoing, but there isn't an ongoing revenue source to fund them.
A really good example to speak to Councilmember Popkins' statement is what we've done around mental health. Mm-hmm. And so we had our core clinicians that were being supervised through a contract. And so a grant contract, and so what we did some restructuring, and now we have one point person in the city, Hilda Zamora Hirsch, who is that clinical oversight for everything from prevention. She'll work closely with senior clinicians, but everything from prevention to crisis. So children, youth, and families clinicians to core clinicians with our housing and community wellness clinicians, kind of making up the middle of that continuum. And so we were able to leverage funds from public safety to make some changes, and what that does is it saves money, right? And it also creates a better experience for the people utilizing those resources. And so if you have, for example, a child that comes into the crisis team, what we're then able to do is provide that family with more resources through that whole continuum with one person, kind of one point of entry. And so, you know, we're building that out. Jenny Diaz-Leon will step into the operations manager position for children, youth, and families, and Hilda will oversee that area. So, making some changes with the funds that we have.
The people that are in jail or prison that have come out and have had a mental or brain injury, are those fall into that category? Kind of, sort of, or should, or they're denied, then I'm working with a client that I find.
Certainly some of those services should apply. It'll depend on the situation and the exact need, if there was.
We put part of what we, one of the organizations that we fund is the Reentry Initiative. And so that would be a good connection. You said you had a client that you're working with. A good contact would be Eliberto. He could put you in touch. I don't know off the top of my head who from the Reentry Initiative would be a good contact, but Eliberto, he can connect.
I don't call it, well, it could be something working with him, center for people with disabilities in jail, prison, is out.
Yeah.
And I'm checking to see what connection is he having that are going to help him
Yeah.
brain injury. What they charge him with, that's unfair. You know, time he made over there and still has to do more time, work release or whatever for
Yeah.
that. So I'm giving that. And I lost his father, lost his mother, and then his stepmother in Texas in a rehab, whatever. So I'm still watching, kind of guiding him, watching him.
Feel free to reach out. We can help with that.
How do you, it seems a difficult task to prioritize. Jim was talking about, here comes the request, and now you have to rank them and prioritize. How do you do that?
With a pencil and an eraser and a lot of feeling of like, this is not the right order.
That's the part I'm asking about. How do you, it must be a daunting task to look at that, because the needs are there.
Yeah, and let me just pull up something quickly, and I apologize, I'm gonna have to run out here in just a few minutes, but essentially what I did is that there are categories, like I mentioned, level ones are those that are kind of, you have to because the cost is increasing and you don't have a choice, the inflationary fees. And then one-time dollars, and then level 2 requests, which are those that are, people would like to have, they're ongoing, and sometimes they're very critical. So for me, my general philosophy is that for the one times that I did big project support, critical operational items required for service, big plans, important operational items, and then other wishes. And then for those level 2 priorities, I did job audits, which is, people, and there were a few of them where people are doing more work than is in their job description. So the job audits, things that are part of a project implementation, positions for existing service levels, council items, positions and expenses for enhanced service levels, and other wishes. And I say that those are broad categories. If I look at my list, it's really difficult to put all of those things in a single category or in an ordered category.
I'll bet.
Harold often talks about how in municipal government and within the city of Longmont, there is no, if we look at it as a business, there's no other business that he can think of, that we can think of, that has all of these significantly different focus areas. So you look at infrastructure, you look at public safety, you look at human services, and purchasing and procurement, like it is just so varied and so diverse that really is the challenge, right? And so having that systems approach and that systems thinking really helps to kind of create those connections to say, okay, if we move something here and we fund this, but we don't fund this, like what are those impacts? And it's a huge job.
I'll bet. Any other questions? Thank you. That was wonderful.
I'm gonna go make a phone call and then I'll be back.
We'll save your seat.
Everybody will take it.
Thank you.
Okay.
I need to change the camera angle.
All right.
I've never done it before.
Wants to get your good side.
He was on his laptop.
You want to be more difficult.
I'm sorry,
That's finished on the top. You're just-
John. Pretty, just bad.
Hey, you have a good tan.
That's true.
That's good. All right, but I know I don't want to know what's back of my head. So I'll move it over here.
Let's see.
In a hurry.
City Council annual presentation. John, you want to take that?
Sure, so the annual presentation has been delayed to August. I don't remember.
August 11th.
August 11th.
It was personal.
It was.
We
It
took-
was Councilmember Popkin.
We took that, we did that.
So John and I met several times on this, John Higgins and I. We're gonna try to focus the presentation in 4 areas. One of them being outreach, food security, so we'll do a recap on food security, where we're at with food security, what we've seen over the last year since the last time that we presented, any new initiatives along that line. This survey is gonna be very prominent. We feel very strongly, advise very strongly about doing a survey, a senior survey this year. Matthew and I talked a little bit about that. I know you have some ideas on that as well. And then outreach that's being spearheaded by Lonnie Dooley. There's Lonnie.
Right there.
Yeah, so we're gonna
Back.
Back.
So we're gonna let me so we're gonna have outreach in there, talk about what we're doing with outreach. And then last but not least, we'd like to have something in there on employment for seniors, which is open to discussion, but given what's happening in a macroeconomic level with all the different articles that are coming out in the last 6 months that I've read, is just incredible. The challenges that seniors face being on a fixed income. And there's really, if you look at it, there's only really 2 ways to address it. We either provide them more resources, right? Food security is certainly one of them, right? Housing, medical, on and on. Or seniors, a lot of them are going back to work, or they're working longer. So I think we need to explore how we might be able to help in that area. I'm not exactly sure what the outcome's gonna be, but that's one that I and several others feel very strongly about. So those are the 4 areas, and John, unless there was something on this.
No, that was it.
Okay.
And
That was it.
I'd be curious to hear kind of what your perspective, Councilmember Popkin, is just around the discussion that I heard last night around, there was a really robust discussion around advisory boards and kind of their role and their function within the city, and how we really look at kind of the division between operational and advisory, and kind of how we go about that. And I don't know if when that presentation comes before council, if council will ask about that, I don't know. It was just a really relevant discussion from last night. So any feedback or thoughts that you have about that?
Yeah, thanks, Christina. If I was to look at the last 6 months of what council's been discussing on advisory boards, we've covered a lot of ground in a lot of different boards. I think a lot of it came from some boards were created for different purposes or in a different era of the city and city needs. And so we're working to consolidate a few and change the focus. We're likely going to be creating a new board that was discussed last night in much more detail for emerging technologies, so Technology Policy Advisory Board. That I think has substantial support for council, so I don't think I'm getting ahead of my skis here. So that will be focused on some of the more novel technologies, cameras, autonomous vehicles, data storage, all of that. Kind of what does that look like in our community? So that's serving a different purpose. But the broader conversation was, what's the function our boards are serving, and are they empowered to do the things that are most helpful for council? And in what situations, when there was I think some of the tension that has arisen previously with a few boards, and I'm not going to name names or boards in this case, but was when there was a clash between the direction from a board to staff on an operational level versus their original intent, which is to advise council on a policy level. And policy and operations do get blended at a certain point. And so that's a tough nut to crack, and we've been trying to wrestle with that a little bit more and figure out kind of what are the clear swim lanes that we want to have, and what are the clear roles, and in what cases do we want the board to just come to council, for council to then say, okay, this is what we're hearing from the boards, and let's make sure this aligns with our priorities, and then direct the board to officially do this. That gives staff clarity, that gives the board a clear swim lane, and I think it's just a little bit more of an active management of our boards. But what was I think a really helpful conversation to have last night was, and particularly relevant, I think, for this group. You're not special, but like
They're special.
you're not unique here in this. Like, this is not a problem we're solving for you. But what was I think really clarifying was that we do want to hear from boards on what are things that maybe the council isn't thinking about right now, but is important to the board and to the community, the part of the community or the topic area that the board is focused on. We are 7 people, we can't follow everything in the world, and you are more people, and part of the goal of focused advisory boards is to advise us on things. We don't want boards to get out of their swim lane and start asking staff to do a bunch of things before we've kind of said, hey, this does align with kind of the priorities, directions, the budget and staff capacity that we have. But I think there is an appetite, and let me know if you heard something different, but I think there's an appetite to hear on a focused basis what are a few things that the board would really appreciate if council said, you know what, that we agree, this is important, thank you for bringing this to our attention. So I think in those situations, I don't want to put an exact number on it, but we were saying, like, the Transportation Advisory Board, for instance, which I also am the liaison for, I use them as an example because I think they're a very clear example where they have a very focused mandate on kind of the capital transportation projects and some of the transportation policies that go through them, but they also host 2 study sessions a year on topics that the board determines. It says, hey, now, and those topics somewhat have to be relevant to broader council priorities, but they can be subsets, they can go a deeper dive into something, and then that allows them to better advise us on kind of the broader policy implications of that. Planning and Zoning Commission does a similar thing on an ad hoc basis for limited types of issues that came up, drive-throughs in our city, for instance, bike parking, so those kinds of things. So I think trying to extend those approaches to some other boards and say, hey, we actually do want to hear from you on a few focused topics as you think that is appropriate, I think feeds into this council presentation here as well, and just the broader efforts that the board is working on as you learn more about the community that you're trying to advise us on and that you're a part of. Let us know, hey, this is a gap in the system, or this is something that we think isn't prioritized and should be. If you tell us 10 things, we'll probably say, okay, let's figure out what are the highest priorities here, or what aligns with some of the other things we're trying to do. But if you say, hey, these are the 2 things, last year was a great example. This board brought food security to the table, pardon the pun there, and said, you know what, this is something we're hearing from our community. This is something we're actively volunteering to help with for certain events, and we think council should make this more of a priority. It was one thing, it wasn't a litany of different things. You said, hey, you know what, we aren't thinking about this in the way that we should be. And I think that was a really good example coming from this board of a space where, we didn't direct you to look into food security at the time, that led to this, but from your understanding of the community's needs and from your understanding of what you were hearing, you said, you know what, we want to bring this to your attention. So I think that we're trying to encourage and just figure out what's the right delineation between directing Christina, Jen, and Ronnie and others to operationalize something immediately versus thinking about this at the policy level and then how that trickles down.
I think one of the challenges that I see is that, 28% of seniors use the senior center, right? So there are things that we do in advising and working with Ronnie and others, right, relative to senior center what the senior center does. But 73% of seniors in our community do not use the senior center. So things like survey, right? We want to hear from every senior in Longmont about what their needs are, not just the people that currently use the senior center and what they'd like to see more in the senior center, right? And if you look at our charter, even if you look at section 1 of our charter, we advise the council. The section 1 doesn't even mention the senior center, right? It mentions things like matters of particular concern impacting senior citizen community of Longmont. So there are things that, like the survey, I keep bringing that up, is, that I think we have to understand what the broader senior citizen community of Longmont, what their needs are, what their desires are, how they feel they're being looked at today and serviced today. And it may go beyond what's currently being done with the senior center, or what the senior center even has the capacity to do.
Right, that is a really good, you read my mind. Talk about that.
No, that's that systems approach.
That's the systems
absolutely,
approach, right.
Information that is relevant that we do need to know, right? But with that information, what effect does that cause, right? When we're looking at budget, we're hearing all these constraints everywhere. If we identify all these great needs, what does that do for current staff when we don't have the funds or budget available to bring on additional staff to provide those resources and supports and services outside of what we're currently offering? So absolutely great information, but what long-term impact does that have when we can't meet the need or demand right now?
Right.
And remedy those concerns, those recommendations, the wish list too.
Right.
I want to be careful with that data. The 28%. That was from a 2022. I think 2022.
June of 24 is when it was published.
It was published, but it was for the year before.
Yeah.
So 2023 data. So that is 4 years old. It was a Bolton County assessment. So that wasn't a Longmont specific. So another reason why we need to hear specifically from Longmont residents.
Yeah.
But I don't want to hang our hat on that only 28% use the senior center, because right now our parking lot's jam packed.
Oh, no.
Our
And that's-
participation increases.
Yeah, and you may be
programs grow.
misinterpreting what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, I'm not even suggesting that the senior center take on more responsibility relative to whatever it is, say 70% of seniors that don't use the senior center and may never want to use the senior center, right? You can't.
Right.
You can bring a horse to water, you can't make them drink.
Right.
But I think we're in a unique position here as a board because we do represent a segment of the population of Longmont. It's not like transportation, where everybody has to have transportation, right? We represent a subset of the city of Longmont. But in gathering data, what we may find is that maybe some of these needs that they have could be addressed by the senior center, but there may be other needs that have nothing to do with the senior center.
So
They
an
may be addressed.
example for that would be employment, right? That's not a service
Exactly.
we apply
Perfect.
out of.
That's a perfect
But-
example.
Right.
But what do we do with that
We
information?
may not be
So
as
we have the staff who
Exactly.
connect them to those
They're
resources
connectors,
outside of the
right.
senior center that exist in Longmont and Boulder County.
Exactly.
So-
That's a great example.
That's a really, really good point in that, would we want to be able to provide services to 80% of the senior population? Sure. Having the resources needed. And so as this board talks about, doing outreach and getting more people in the door, I would challenge you all to think about what the impact would be to service levels to customers, if we all of a sudden have a surgence of, you know, double the population that we see, what that customer experience might be, and how do we pace that outreach and that information gathering with being able to leverage and to get more service providers in the door, more resource specialists, more recreational opportunities, a bigger building. Like, I think that is really where we all need to
Yeah.
work
I think
together.
what gets missed in this is, as an advisory board, we're just gathering information.
Absolutely.
We have no desire to say to anybody here, we want you to do, that's not our job. But part of the idea of the survey is to be able to say, have the needs changed? It's now 2026, we started this board way back when, maybe the bylaws need to be changed, but the fact is, we need to gather information to make sure that we're serving whatever population we serve here
Yeah.
accurately. They may not need some service, and we can trade those funds for something different. I know that some of the articles, once John started about employment, David and John started about employment, started looking at what's happening in the last year.
Right.
The demand for seniors that go back to work or can't quit
Right.
has increased dramatically.
Right.
That doesn't mean we're gonna ask the senior center to create an employment division. We're gonna say is, here's an issue. Fortunately for us, we don't have to do anything about it, except to say, here's the issue. It's not gonna go any further than this group, and then the council, this is something you all to decide.
Right.
We
What-
wanna give you the most accurate information. That survey that Boulder County
To put a
did,
pin in it, right.
yeah, was specific to all the counties in Boulder County. Erie was, all the cities, Erie and Longmont was included there. So the 28% has some accuracy, and that starts making the numbers, the 100,000 guests through here relative to 28% of the population. Yeah, but still, the people who come here, we wanna serve them the best way possible. My thought was around employment. People that may be coming here don't need a job. What about the other 72% that might? That's the question we wanna ask.
Absolutely.
So it's not a matter of saying, we found this, you have to do this.
Right.
That's not part of advising
Right.
or providing
Right.
information.
And how is the population that, you know, Gen Xers, I'm a Gen Xer and I'll be 55 next year, and so as that, the demographics change, you know, the needs might change. The needs are gonna consistently morph, and so how do we, to your point, give council a good picture of what's happening in our senior
You know,
community?
where you have some, like you say, that are not 55, or gonna be 55, some of them are wanting to become 55, so they can come here and get the service that we provide, because in other cities, they're not providing.
Right.
My question,
Right.
and the service providers here, when it's not our, thought that we need to help them, then we need to be acknowledged of the outside providers. So we
Absolutely.
can bounce it, ese es tuyo, este pa' allá, este pa' aquí. That's my question.
Right.
Always. Because
Absolutely.
when I was working in the comité, I got to know everything and everybody, from ball or whatever, so I could know where to bounce the ball. That not belongs to, not that we didn't wanna help them, yes, but I wanted to make sure that the service provider that was supposed to be taking that case would do it. I even called, I can help you, but let me know what I can do so you can help this person and not feel intimidated, that person that, no, they don't wanna help me, whatever. If I wanna do your job, I have my job, enough, and that's how we learn to play volleyball, be knowledgeable of all that it's out there. When you come here, well, it's not part of our thing to do, but we need to know where it belongs.
So, one example is, that, I was thinking is, Friends has this list for the Chamber of Commerce, as an example. So, there are Chamber of Commerce networking events that Friends are gonna go to. They have you're going there, I would take it primarily for, potential, fundraising opportunities, I think is.
It's multiple, but that's one of them.
Yeah.
For the
John and I talked about piggybacking onto some of those Sam's Club, Costco as an example, to find out what their employment situation is and see if we can advocate to those employers to more strongly consider seniors when they're looking for employment, to try to see how they could employ more seniors in their operation.
The other thing that you know, where we can leverage, and when you talk about that systems approach, the other thing that we can look at and leverage what Children, Youth and Families is doing, and I think Jenny is coming next month.
Hopefully
July?
next month, yeah.
In July to talk about the early childhood work, and the article that you shared, John, and that Dave shared about the early childhood corps, about seniors getting into the early childhood career, the early childhood field after retirement. We have a shortage of early childhood providers. We have, we're expanding, we're trying to expand slots in Longmont, where we have Ascent at Hover Crossing, where we have co-located early childhood, and what they lack is providers. And so I think that is a good idea, a good example of kind of mission alignment. And so we have seniors that need work. Maybe they don't want to work full time. Maybe they, you know, how can we kind of bring those two efforts along? So Jenny can provide more of an overview of what that framework looks like, and kind of what she's been doing in the community, and that could potentially be an area that would be appealing to seniors to kind of step into that world.
Couple questions here. So we started today talking about, well, we started today when I walked in, talking about the budget and kind of the limitations there. A budget is probably the best indication of our priorities, right? If you're not putting funding somewhere, it's just a lofty goal. Budget reflects priorities. Priorities reflect what we understand about our community, and in terms of, and that is a combination of data inputs, our lived experience, our personal and professional experience in our community, and that all trickles up to inform the priorities that then, in theory, if done well, should inform our budget and staffing. John, is your, like, can you, I guess both Johns, can you walk me through like what types of data or inputs you're really hoping to get from some kind of broader survey of the senior citizen community? And I ask this because, and I was literally just texting Sandy this just to understand the timing. The city is going through a broader Longmont community survey process. We just looked at a draft of that last week. And I'm wondering, as we think about some synergy here, depending on the exact questions you're trying to ask, we already have a demographic section, so we'd be able to pull out data from just 55 and up. We'll be asking 50, like, just, obviously we're not asking just demographics in the survey. We have substantive questions there too, but we would be getting data 55 to 64 years, 65 to 74, and 75 and over, based on the current structure of this too. So I'm just wondering if there are maybe a couple tweaks we can make in that, if that would be relevant here to informing the information that comes to this group. We might be able to feed two birds with one stone here. It's a less violent analogy.
Difficult to answer your question because Dave Brennan would have been, because when I met with Dave yesterday, and he had some questions sketched out that he thought would be appropriate, but he didn't share. I mean, he shared a little bit with me, but he was planning to be here today and couldn't.
Okay.
So
maybe we can
probably
chat
for today.
I think that, and then also connecting with Ronnie to see what data he has and what questions in terms of fidelity that we have asked in the past,
Sure.
so that we can have a baseline and a good comparison of, you know, this is what we heard. And when did you start? 24?
22.
I think both would
22.
be helpful. Both would be helpful inputs here.
Absolutely.
And
22 and yeah.
I'm going to see if I can just get a sense of timing on that, because there might be a situation where the council presentation is actually going to be too late for when this would go out, and I can just take those inputs back from this board, and maybe we just have a, if it's
Well,
sooner.
from a demographic standpoint, having it start at 55, I think is more representative because the Boulder study, for example, starts at 60. And other ones say you're a senior at this age. So if we look at the population 55 on up to wherever,
Yeah.
it becomes almost 30% of the existing population is that age group. I think it's, and the 55s, believe it or not, are getting older. So
Is that how time works?
Sorry,
Yeah.
And that really ties into kind of what Ronnie has done in his tenure here in terms of looking at, okay, if we want to appeal to younger seniors who are still working, what do we need to do to make that happen? Okay, somebody like me who is still working probably can't come during the day to get resources, to get peer support, to get any of those services. And so Ronnie's done a really good job of saying, okay, let's look at expanding those evening hours, and really looking at different ways to do business. And so I think that aligns well.
Well, and I think that, again, demographically, 55 sounds like a
Yes.
great age group.
Yeah.
The other thing is, when Dave Brennan, then chair, said, what else are we gonna look at? Food security came up. Nobody had any idea that there was an issue and we found out it's quite an issue, and it's growing. Now, John and I both attend Friends meetings, and what's come up there is the increase in last resort funding. And that is an aptly named group, last resort. People come there because they have no place else to go. And that's become an issue around housing, things like that. Price of housing is going up. So I think if we could sit down with Dave, Ronnie, John, myself, whoever, to say, here's the 4 issues we talked about, one include the survey. How do we make sure we have a balanced approach? Again, it was very clear to me early on, if we're gonna suggest something, for example, like food security, Ronnie's point was, shouldn't have any impact on staff, which I agree. And it should be sustainable. If the board changes over, who's gonna do it? So that's always been our approach, and that's the approach we've followed going forward. We wanna make sure we're addressing needs of seniors without we've been asking for 1 or 2 staff members for several years now. We keep getting told, ain't gonna happen, okay. So we as an advisory board can suggest and find volunteers. We don't wanna impact staff, don't wanna do that. But we do wanna impact seniors, whatever that means. So the survey was a way of looking at the goals, staffing, funding,
Yep.
whatever.
And I'm not opposed to that. I just also want to think if we are going out and doing a citywide survey effort already for the whole community,
Yes.
and we're asking about demographics that could give us some inputs already for the board, the depending on what you wanted to ask and what council and staff are asking and already planning to ask in general, there might be enough synergies or a couple tweaks that we can make there to actually cover a lot
Is
of.
there a draft of that?
Yeah, so I just sent it to Christina and Ronnie. It was published in the May 26th City Council agenda, so just last week was kind of the
You put a
updated
link
draft
to that
there.
agenda, and I think Ronnie.
And Jen is running this full shop.
Right,
Um,
Jen is running, she's paying for it, recreation funding.
So thank you for all that.
Thank you, Jen.
So,
Ronnie's gonna say
So
something.
I think there also needs to be awareness that, you just mentioned funding, something on that type of a level where we're surveying a large part of our community costs money. And so that's what I'm saying is that we have to go through, I have no doubt Dave's got great ideas, I have no doubt that we have some areas where we need more information so we better understand what true needs are. But we need to look big picture, and that's where staff needs to be big part of this conversation of, this is what we're thinking, how do we organize to put that into action? That organization costs money, time, energy. We're talking about staff availability, flexibility, who can do that work. Not only that, some of these pieces of information may already exist. So again, back to those great questions that Dave may have. We're just using him as an example because he's not here. He's got those questions, right? Those pieces of information may already exist. I know one of them that he was looking for. I provided him that information. So he's been spinning his wheels behind the scenes, thinking we need more information. This is the small snapshot that I have. So we need to do all this work around it. Talking with him, it's well, here's what we, senior services, who are working directly with seniors, the information data we collected shows that it's not a concern. It's not a need right now. Does it exist in our community? Sure.
Absolutely.
Is it a high priority in the list of what those real big needs for seniors are? Not at this moment.
Ronnie, I do want to be clear a little bit. What I'm hearing from a few folks is when we have some data on certain things, and I've sat down with you before last year, we walked through a lot of that, which is great. but that there's also a distinction between the senior services that are provided through the senior center and the
Greater need.
the greater senior citizens
Yes.
population in our community,
Yes.
which may be different groups.
Yes.
And so when we think about what are we actually, and I'm not saying they are, the Venn diagram could be 100%, it could also be a subset of that. So I think this is an opportunity when we have the community survey at least to try to get that broader
Absolutely.
standpoint so that you can continue to manage the senior citizen,
Right.
the senior center needs, and then we can also take that step back and say, hey, is there alignment enough? And so let's
Absolutely.
take a look at those questions that you referenced so we can have a good baseline, and let's get a sense. I would say like maybe this is either a conversation I can help triangulate here between Chair and Dave and John, and just know kind of if you want to just we have to figure out it's enough people that it would be a open meeting, but maybe there's a subset of a meeting that we can have, or depending on the timing for the full community survey, maybe there's a part of our agenda in the next meeting in July where we can carve out more discussion
Right.
on this and just have
Right, I was sharing that some of that data may
Yeah.
exist to guide and
Great.
direct
Yeah,
those
absolutely.
recommendations.
Oh, no, for sure.
So,
I
Yeah.
think a really good example of how advocacy, and you spoke to this, Chair John, that you spoke to this around food security, and I think it was really reflected in the comments that you made last night, Councilmember Popkin, in terms of, did you call it resiliency? You were talking about kind of that council house, the priority, and how they're gonna construct their house with
You're stealing
their,
from my update, Christina.
Oh, okay, go ahead.
No.
It was just very, I'm like, okay, that this is a clear example of the issues that the senior advisory board brought to council are really reflected in the conversation that council is having now, because it's not, it's about, creating that community resilience, and I appreciated that conversation.
And
Sorry,
I
I didn't mean to interrupt you.
missed some of this conversation, so you may have already said this, and I think that there was a big conversation last night that City Council had about the roles of boards and commissions, in terms of providing City Council, who this group advises, with information about kind of emerging issues and those kinds of things. And this body can't direct staff, and this body can't direct council. And so I think that there's working with
We
everybody
touched on that a
together.
little bit.
Working
Yeah.
with everybody, recognize that there's something that there needs to be some information shared with this board, then that can happen, as part of the negotiation about how the agenda gets put together. And I think that, I think we had just had a conversation about kind of all those competing needs in the budget. I mean, I think we recognize that there's 100 things that are on my list, and I think all of them are important and we wanna fund them, and unfortunately, we just are not gonna be able to do that. There's just not enough money to go around. So I apologize for jumping into a
Yeah, no.
conversation.
And that's where I think we are starting to coalesce here of like, how do we try to leverage existing direction that's already happening with the community survey, the existing need for trying to parse out a little bit of additional sub-community specific or demographic specific information to help inform, frankly, how this board can effectively advise us. So I think that's the intention of where we're starting to get to. Yeah, did you want to?
Can I just wanna make a statement, I'm down in the weeds, but from a systems approach, your demographic of 75 and older needs to be broken down just a little more. 75 to 85 and maybe 85 and above, because the demographic of 80 and over is the fastest growing demographic.
Do you want?
And the needs are different between people who are 75 and 85 and then 85 and above.
Just to clarify on that, so you said the needs of people 80 and over are changing, but you want, like, do we want to align with 80 and
The needs for people
up?
who are 85 and older change dramatically from people who are 75.
Okay.
So having it 75 and above, this
too broad.
vast
Too
this vast pocket is way too big.
The Boulder survey,
That's
the last category is 80 plus.
Yeah.
And that's the fastest growing demographic.
And that's the
at this
fastest
point.
growing demographic.
It's
Because I
expected
think
to
if you
grow
go
by
75 to 85, you might, that's where people start aging the most rapidly, and then 85 and above,
that's great feedback, thank you.
Yeah.
I can send you that study if you haven't seen it, and it's very specific that it used to be an expected growth 80 plus at 220%. Now it's down to 157% of growth
Mhm.
in that age, 80 and above.
So I'm hearing two numbers here, and I want to just get a quick pulse check on the whole board. Like, does everyone generally feel like that breaking that down further, as there was a suggestion here, makes sense?
Yes, and that's 80 and above be the, not 75 and above.
Right. So do we want to? Is it 80 and above or 85 and above that we want to kind of?
I would go for 85 and above, but
Only-
I'm not on the board.
Well, only because we have some statistics,
Mhm.
80 plus is the number that Boulder.
So that would give us a more consistent
Put a line
baseline.
with Boulder now.
Yeah, if you wanna line
So
with
you can
that, yeah.
compare to that
Okay.
demographic and their information.
Let me. All right. We'll work on that.
So when is the survey going out?
I'm trying to get the details on that. I texted Sandy. Jen, do you know when the community survey is planning to go out?
I don't know.
We just saw a draft of it last week, so I don't think it's going out. Like, I hope, hopefully we can get one more meeting in here for it.
Does it go up June, July?
I'll see.
For some reason, that's the timing that I remember from years past, but that was before
Doesn't
we
have to be
brought the
precedent, yeah.
surveys in-house, so.
Well, I think we'd certainly like to meet with you before that to.
Yeah, let
Maybe
me
tweak
get
some of those
information on
questions.
when that exactly
Okay.
is planned. Let me check the council
Right.
calendar for that.
Yeah,
too.
and I think, again, and somebody mentioned it, depending on the number of board members, just so that, Bianca can make that a public meeting.
So what would happen to take it a step further, Matthew?
I'm looking into that.
Okay.
Let me just get some information on kind of what the
And you
process is.
provided us with some dates that you're available to me, I don't
Oh,
know if that's
for-
coming up, yeah, so maybe we could, depending on what we hear from Sandy, Ronnie has those dates and could work
Mhm.
pulling a group together, and then depending on how many people are available, then post it.
Lynn Yormy said that they're prepping for a launch in 3 weeks. Not completely locked in due to printing uncertainty, but definitely before the end of the month.
So it wasn't far off, so June, July, yeah.
Okay.
That's a short order.
Short order. Let
Lynn
me-
is, yeah, she's wonderful to work with, so.
Yeah.
So maybe the next steps,
Thanks, Jen.
Ronnie, if you'll look at the email from Councilmember Popkin providing some of those dates. And then who from this board should he include in that meeting? We can wait for.
And follow up with staff to kind of, an
Yes.
opportunity for us, for a community survey to see what is it we as a staff need to collect from the
Right.
community as well to better support
Right.
our services and drive the direction of
Yeah.
the services we're providing.
Yeah, and that'll save senior services some money.
Yeah, this is an interesting one because I would really like to make sure that we're pulling in some of this input, and I think from what I've heard from other council members too, I think that would be valued. This board in particular, there are a couple boards perhaps, and this one of the few
You've
that I
bragged on this board.
Of the few that I'm the liaison to, this one probably makes the most sense to help inform some of the questions there. Recognizing we're trying to balance for breadth of questions asked versus depth of questions asked and the time that it takes to complete the survey so we can get enough data from people. So it's you could probably have 10 people fight over every single question as to whether it's a priority or not. Council has given a fair amount of direction already on what is, but if there are some adjustments or refinements that would get at like the demographic suggestion there, I'm already looking at a couple things. I'm like, we had a question on food and cost already, but it also included hygiene products, and I'm wondering if we wanted to separate those out. Like things, some of the things like that, just so we can get a little bit more granular information on that helps give us a little bit more guidance. That's what I'm thinking about right now, and this is a board that really knows us almost a third of our community. Like that is,
Yes, at 55 and over is 30%.
yeah. Okay. Let me take these inputs right now and talk with staff about this,
Great.
so that we can follow that. John and Dave, if there's inputs that you wanted to send to Ronnie of like the questions, and then we can just have that to discuss and see. I think that, or anyone from the board, frankly, if you guys have, can we get the current draft of the survey that I sent just to the board,
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's also public on the agenda portal, but
Yeah, I know.
if we can just send that out so they can see kind of what's currently being asked, that would be useful and timely feedback.
I think the challenge is we may be able to influence the survey, the community-wide survey, and get a few senior-related
Mhm.
questions on there. But my concern would be that we don't have really what we want, the breadth of what we want
Sure.
for a senior survey.
And I think that's then a separate stage from there in some ways. Like I'd rather deal with what we can is
What we can
immediately
get.
moving and we know is moving right now.
Understand.
And then perhaps based on what we learn from that, it might even inform
Yeah.
further what we would
Yeah.
want to do.
Yeah.
So now we're hearing it's like 3 weeks and it's gonna go out. What's the turnaround time then? Do you have any idea? Goes out in 3 weeks, comes back in, results in,
I'm not certain.
That I don't know, but we can look into that.
And what are the mechanisms to respond to the survey? Is it,
How is it going out?
yeah.
We're exclusively tweeting it. There's
It's
a
not
robot.
apps.
We have a lot of different ways of engaging with people on this.
let
and
me
so-
turn this off for a second.
No, we have a lot of different
There's
ways that we're going to be
lots
working
of
on that, and,
different-
and it's
yeah.
meant to try to hit people in different places, and have as accessible of an outreach as possible.
Okay.
So
If you have a moment, the next, talking to the council members, I wanna take a second and say, at every food table,
Mhm.
we've had at least, the mayor's been,
2 to
the
3.
participation by city council's been really robust and much appreciated. There's typically comments every time people go through the line, cause I'm the guy at the end helping them,
Mhm.
not bag, I don't do bag.
no, you're by the desserts. I know.
Exactly. And we found out everybody has something to say about council members being there.
Yeah.
And it's nice to see that happening at the senior center. So please thank the council on our behalf for that support.
Absolutely.
That's how they know what's going on. They come and serve what they're serving.
And if you ever wanna see a council member who's really robust, using that word again, in getting food off the table, Councilmember McCoy, very assertive when
He
it takes.
sells it, boy.
He moves product like nobody I've ever seen. It's
He's
amazing.
used to convincing kids to learn. So.
I will make sure to report back to the mayor pro tem that he is leading by example on how to move product.
He is very good.
Oh,
He
we'll
also
appreciate that.
Was Council, Alex's son was at the last, I missed the last one before that, his son was there to help. He was such a sweet kid, and he had these little tiny apples, one at a time. It was wonderful, so thank you all for that.
Great. Thank you for bringing up the survey interest and the needs there. Let's see what we can get done with the community survey right now,
Please.
and then let's pick up the other conversation as we get.
Great,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, phew, that was wonderful. Manager report.
Right. I'll go out of order real- just because it kind of piggybacks on what we were just discussing for budget requests. Just for awareness, did request again 2 additional resource specialists. I made 2 different requests. The impact 2 resource specialists would have in our facility and the services it could provide to our community and reduce the wait list. And then the impact 1 would have if 2 could not be provided. Still impacting the wait list, bringing that wait list down, and serving more seniors in our community. So I did request two resource specialists, bilingual required, funding for senior food security, so allowing us to continue to collect data to see what the true big picture need is for an evening option, an evening meal. So we're still working on those pieces. To collect that data and information to go back to request a more permanent request to support that service and address that need down the road. Our great smart boards that we have in each classroom are what we're learning from our presenters is better access to PowerPoint. So requested Microsoft Office funds for Microsoft Office 365, so that way we have those Microsoft products available: Word, Excel, and PowerPoint specifically. Those 3 we're learning that are presenters like to have access to those resources in real time for their programs. So made a request for that. Ongoing expense and that, I want to actually go back to that. We also have a lot of different departments who utilize our facility for their own trainings, for community presentations, events, and so that allows access for those different divisions, departments to have those resources on these smart boards when they're here in our facility as well. Next slide, internet service for the classroom. The game plan initially was to have Wi-Fi tap into the current staff internet we have available, but because we have so many different presenters, we had to get a separate Wi-Fi for each classroom. So that expense for this facility is $1,400 a month. I've absorbed that with our general budget, but need to include that expense for ongoing moving forward. Again, it's not just senior services; it's all city departments that use these resources in our facility.
Ronnie, did
Yeah.
you say that was $1,400 a month?
14. Annually. 14.
Okay.
I
Discount.
was just about to say,
Yeah.
That's a different
Yeah.
price.
Yeah, that I definitely don't have in my agenda. Thank you for catching that. I don't have that. Make sure that's in there. In our meeting notes, definitely don't have that in our budget, right? Cell phone stipend, it's been a request from our staff. Again, doing a lot of work in different spaces. And so cell phone stipend for equitability that's offered in other departments as well. Increase in staff training, all I did is ask for that to be doubled, 5,000 to 10,000. Our staff has grown, and cost of everything, all these trainings have also increased as well. In my 4 years, we have not had that increased, and so there's a $5,000 increase to have our staff of 15 figure out how to use even $10,000 for any trainings. So, but it gives us more opportunity. Increase in printing and budget, that's a increase in cost of that service, and then cost of supplies has gone up, and that's impacting Go production as well. How many pages we could print in each Go catalog, and how many catalogs we could print each cycle. So we've asked for an increase to bring that up to 42,000. Right now it's 36,000. So a slight increase there just to allow us to maintain that. Any questions on those budget requests?
Two questions, Ronnie.
Yes.
The increase in the budget for the Go, does that have anything to do with the fact that you have to get larger print? For the Go?
So that larger print, ADA compliance, no, it's more so how popular we are. Anybody who grabs the Go, Laura, I know you've noticed how quickly we run out.
Oh my gosh, yes. For example, Dr. Lysette, who is a geriatric doctor in town, you send some Goes to her office, they're gone.
Yeah.
And you know, it's that population, and it is becoming more and more popular, so yeah, it's
Yeah.
Well,
And
not only
Bianca.
that, she uses the Go as a resource to guide people who need more, especially more social interaction or more,
for wellness.
brain stimulation and activity. And she said, I just saw her, she's my doctor, I just saw her last Friday, and she said that the situation is that the engagement of getting seniors engaged in the community, that this is the best way to do it. And she's actually visited the senior center incognito,
That's good.
just to check it out so she
Right.
can recommend it.
And then data supports,
Yeah.
we have more coming in, new clients, new participants.
Absolutely,
And
right.
the amount of visits
Right.
they have into our facility continue to increase. This last year was over 10,000 more visits from our seniors.
You know, we teach
and,
a class
Mhm.
here and have for the last 3 years, but previously Bobby taught it since 2016. And we have been seeing new people come in an increasing
We had 4
amount.
new people in our
That
class.
speaks
Yeah.
volumes
Just
to your
yesterday.
presentations as well, for your class.
And to that point too, we went, the friends went to a recent Rotary meeting in Niwot, and they specifically asked us to bring Go magazines for them to distribute to members. and his friends are now gonna be going out to
Yeah,
various.
we didn't do that, right?
No,
Okay, good.
I showed them. I said, this
You
looks
get directed to
bad.
the website.
Yep. But the point is that the friends are now gonna be going out to various chamber meetings, and that's our best advertisement, so.
So we have different ways, so make sure you're connecting with us on those and not grab and goes, because Bianca can share.
What's
She
that website?
manages all of that, how often they're being refilled. Bianca, what would you say the average is, how before, from that go cycle ending to when the new go cycle is received, the new go catalog is received? What is the average time, amount of weeks that we have no-goes in that process?
No go.
Who goes?
Well, so we get delivered a couple pallets that first day, and I'd say first 2 weeks, like half of our stock
Yeah.
is gone at least, and right now, thinking we probably have 10 boxes left in the back. I'm not sure that we'll have any, I'm not sure that we'll have any more Go magazines by,
Past July, huh?
yeah, past July.
Yeah, so
How
that's
many
good.
how many just kind of ballpark are sent like through the city, like to city manager's office, to other division managers?
So we're gonna start sending the QR codes
Perfect,
to them.
that's what I was gonna say, just
Yeah.
send me the QR code, because that's usually how I look at things
Yeah.
anyway, and that's at least one that could go to somebody else. And I think the same for other division managers, like, Hilda, Jenny.
Or maybe even like, we'll consider doing that for, say, the library.
The library,
sending
yes,
magazines
that
but
is a
also QR
great
codes for them,
idea.
So that's-
just because there's so much traffic in there, and I know, a lot of our seniors are there throughout the day, but it's nice and calm.
And that's a good example of how we, senior services and human services, are very system thinking of, okay, well, how do we do more with what we have? But what we've learned from our senior participants is they want the tangible catalog,
Yeah.
they want the
Send it for
magazine, they
them.
don't want to go to the website, right? Their comfort level navigating electronic, an electronic version is not, it doesn't meet their needs. And so eventually we will start phasing into that with that comfort level as our senior population grows, that they will be more comfortable accessing online catalogs. So what we've done is for a lot of our outreach, when we do city events, we are leaning on that QR code. We're directing everybody to, when it's just the interest level, we are directing them to the electronic copy. That way our physical copies are going to those who are registering for the programs, who are in the senior center, are here multiple days out of the week for all those different services that we provide, right? And so, but even to maintain with what we have at our current print level, the costs have gone up. So we just want to be able to maintain there.
I have to say, going to Google to get to the Go catalog has become easier for some reason in the recent year.
That is good,
Yeah, it's really good, because I do that a lot. I don't have a physical catalog.
Registering.
And registering, yeah.
So what
It's still it's still not easy, but it's
better.
easier.
long-winded answer to your question, John, is the print ADA compliant. We don't have any way around that. It's the amount of goes that are being taken off the shelf. But what we have done to try to keep the page numbers down is put limits on program descriptions, program descriptions, what it is we're advertising in our community. Every department wants an advertisement in our Go catalog, right? Just being very strategic on what we can put there versus out here on our reader boards in the lobby. Different departments send us those, we'll put them on the reader board, but we can't put it in the Go. So just really seeing how we could provide those supports and keep the amount of pages down as well.
Hey Ronnie,
Yeah.
can we accept external advertisement from local businesses? Is
No.
that,
No.
is that something we choose not to do, or is that something?
You mean,
can't?
what do you mean, donations or?
No, I mean, like, in the Go magazine have
If Costco wanted to.
businesses.
Right.
So I'm kind of exploring
Advertise.
something. I already have that. I've had something like that on the back burner for a while to see if there's a way to provide space to advertise with a cost that can help support services.
Right.
An example that I've had is that nice gymnasium that we have with the nice big walls, and maybe get a nice big banner on there that we put up for a year that they're paying for that space. Something like that. I don't know.
Similar
Haven't
to
gotten
what
there.
recreation does with like the ice rink or.
It just can be one of those where we can't limit who's advertising, and so there can be challenges with that, and you know, with no offense to liquor stores or places that sell marijuana, but would that wanna be the
Opening Pandora's box.
You are, yeah.
So I think that, and we probably navigate those conversations all the time, but it's just, there's that consideration in terms
Yeah,
of that.
sure.
So that's why it's on the back burner is, hey, what can we do differently, right?
Yeah.
But have it
Hey,
react to
Brian,
it.
One more question
Sure.
for you. It's kind of a minor thing, but SCTC, I think they may have talked to you about the fact this is the only room that you can, I think it's the only room you can't dim the lights, or at least ones that SCTC uses with lights in here can't dim. Have they ever talked to you about if there's anything that can be done to dim these lights?
There's nothing that could be done with this location. Facilities would have replaced these lights when they put the dimmers in every other classroom. It's just the layout of the facility. It's just access to this power source. That's my generic maintenance facilities answer, but they had a reason behind all of that why it could not.
Okay.
So
Another question on the budget here. Is it appropriate to ask what your ask is of the funds coming up for 2027 is, that might be included here?
ask for friends with the 2027. Well, really those asks are dependent on what is approved here or not, right?
So first the approval, which happens in September, and then go to the Friends, which.
Absolutely.
Okay.
That's the Friends role is kind of that's the partnership is their mission is to support senior service programs,
Right.
senior services programs and resources that are available. So based off of the budget, what holes currently exist, that's where I go and ask like, hey, this is what we are capable of doing, the services we provided, and here's still the greater need.
Mhm.
Can you help support with these?
Uh-huh.
And so we won't really know until we see what
September.
it is here, yeah.
Okay, cause I don't remember when the budgeting process for next year happens. It's coming up, I think,
I
soon.
usually start getting drafts to them by in October,
Okay.
and is reviewed by the board in November, and at the December one is approved.
Okay,
Yep.
Yeah.
thank you.
So these are, you know, there's, what is that, 7 items here, and those are very important items to us. And as we're learning about the budget, we can't give a wish list, so we have to give a priority list. And you know, these are priorities just for us to provide the current services that are coming out of the senior center.
And is the B the only one you had funding for last year outside of staff?
Yes, that was my only approval, which was an important one, but it was the only one to your question. Any more questions? I'll go back to the top now. So training for new technology. Speaking of our new technology, we just had a training for our instructors, group facilitators, and city staff. As mentioned, out of our facility, a lot of different departments and divisions utilize our classrooms for community events, community presentations, and staff trainings as well. And so what we did is invited everybody, sent it out to all of our partners to come to this training. It was about an hour and a half. We brought in CCS, the company that installed these smart boards, and just did a all-around training on everything from how to turn it on, how to turn it off, but
Those are
really,
important.
right?
That's a big thing.
But really navigating the resources that can elevate our programs and presentations for our group instructors and facilitators. An opportunity to learn how to all the dual functions. So you can pull up your presentation. You can also do a split screen for your presentation, If there's a video attached to it, you can have a video going on the other side, you can have a whiteboard on the other side, you can toggle between full screens, and most importantly, how to navigate hybrid options. This is something that is so important for our facilitators to learn is that functionality, because what it allows us to do in this space specifically, our capacity, I think it's 30 seats if we only had chairs. With tables, it's around 20 max. Those with a popular program, that fills up very quickly. And so what it allows our group facilitators and instructors to do is provide that hybrid option. So instead of capping it at 20, and saying, oh, sorry, 15 people on the wait list, better luck next time, right? And then maybe next go cycle, they can log into that program and attend virtually. And so we have a lot of our facilitators who are utilizing that option to broadcast the program, the presentation. What that functionality does, it allows those visiting or attending virtually to see the PowerPoint, but also see everybody in attendance. If there's a group discussion, they could be a part of it. This board had a good chance of seeing what that was like when we had our presentation last month, when we had, and I just blanked her name, from transportation come visit, and she visited
Cami,
virtually. It wasn't Cami, it was
Kaylee.
Kaylee. And Kaylee, it was a great example for us to see how well she could hear everybody in the room. Everybody could see her presentation, everybody can see and hear her on the other side as well. So it just showed the dual functionality that this piece of technology provides when we are at capacity. We don't have more classrooms, we don't have more availability, and it gives different options for attendance participation in our programs.
Speaking of that hybrid possibility, I noticed that Zoom is now downloaded on D. Do you know what version of Zoom that is? Is it a professional version? Because you have a limit on how many you can bring in, and a time limit.
So what each functionality does, it allows you as the user to access whatever account you have. So
Okay.
if I have a Google account, I'll use your example. So if I just have the free Zoom version and not the professional one, and I am the instructor, I'm inviting those hybrid participants, I'm sending them the link to participate. And so what I as the user do in that example is on this device, I log into Zoom, I click on that app, log into Zoom, and it logs me, my personal account in there. So if I have a professional account, that's what I'm logged into. And so it's an easy version, instead of having two different approaches, right? It's a computer. I can go into the browser, enter Zoom, put my account information just like we would on any computer. Or I click that app, and I'm just putting in the presentation code and my confirmation I'm who I am, and I'm logged in. It's much more simple. It simplifies those processes as well. So again, once we get more comfortable with that, it provides more opportunity for our participants who don't get to attend because the enrollment is at capacity.
And we keep sick people out of here too.
So this is, we recorded it, we partnered with Longmont Public Media, because what that does, it allows us to record this. So when we have new instructors coming in, we can send them that video, that training. And we are working on a manual as well, so that we'll have a physical copy of how to, a video copy to watch to learn about how to access and navigate this. And of course, if they want to come in and learn before, we'll give them that opportunity.
Is that video available now?
Not yet, and not yet. So they were still cleaning everything up to finalize that. And so once we have, it allows them, but also if another division department says, hey, Ronnie, we want to do this community presentation in 2 weeks at your classroom starting at 7 p.m., I'm gonna be honest, I'm not gonna be here for that to walk them through and show them. Bianca's got family that she's gotta go take care of. So it's here's the video, here's the link, here's the manual. Your responsibility to come and connect with us during business hours if you have any questions to navigate it before. So we have more resources to give to those utilizing our facility to be successful. So kudos to Brandy for organizing that. She's incredible, she's amazing. And we all knew that, right?
Absolutely.
Elder Exchange updates, we are still moving forward. July 15th through 19th? 15th through 19th, Wednesday through Sunday, July 15th through 19th. today's meeting I have with them, they're hoping to have word from business council for identified dates for the second exchange where our participants would go to the reservation. A communication about registration applications for the other exchange, if for those who are interested, is hoping to go out tomorrow once I collect that information, so we have accurate information for our applicants. We are gonna do the application process as we did last year, where applicants apply and leadership will vet the applications based off of availability for both trips to attend.
What was the date on that?
July 15th through 19th,
Okay.
Wednesday through Sunday. AAA Community Conversations updated the board last month that we are partnering with Boulder County to provide those opportunities for them to connect with our community to gather information for them to do their Boulder County annual report. The dates that have been identified are June 5th for a Spanish-specific conversation, 10 through 11:30, Monday, June 8th, 10 to 11:30, and Monday, June 22nd from 5:30 to 7 p.m. This is not a senior center-led conversation. It's not specific to Longmont Senior Center. It's Boulder County as a whole. They want to hear from our community to learn how they can best utilize their resources and provide supports throughout Boulder County. 2026 maintenance closure, just want to again put that on everybody's radar that we will have our facility closure July 20th through August 3rd, and we will be closed during that time, no programs or meetings. Does not impact us as a board. We will have our board meeting that Wednesday in August. So
Run those dates again?
July 20th through August 3rd.
Okay. July 20 through August 30th?
August 3rd.
Third.
Oh, August 30th, sorry.
Yeah.
That'd be a long closure.
Yeah,
Why not though, right? And that is my report.
One question, and I apologize. On the Elder Exchange, July 15th, that's them coming here?
That's them coming here.
Okay.
You think we'll follow the same format as last time, dinner at the museum
Probably not the museum, but dinner, yes. Yeah, probably here.
and any expectations of the advisory board participating in the meal?
Not yet, but I would love to, once we get going, and get all those fine details ironed out. Right now, we just have a preliminary schedule, but still want to include our Friends Board, our advisory board, our past year's participants, our current staff, all hands on deck to really be a part of this process in different spaces and capacities. It'd be great for our once we have those pieces of information, our board to have a specific evening to help serve dinner, get to know participants from both communities, and just be a part of it. Thank you. Good question.
Let's address the elephant in the room first. I was 10 minutes late. When we changed the timing of the meetings, it runs right up against the hard meeting that I've had recurring on Wednesdays for my day job. So sometimes those end early, sometimes I can take those from the car to I couldn't. So apologies. Just wanted to let you know that the timing shift puts it very tight there. So
I didn't even notice.
it's not personal. Everyone else did.
Oh, we did. We did. We noticed.
I know you did, John. So I just wanted to note that and apologize. I do my best to get here on time, but it's not a sign of disrespect to any of you. Thank you for the feedback on the community survey. Just a couple other things I was looking into after that. On the methodology, I did pull up some additional information on that. And so if you're curious, it's going to be a digital first approach for the community survey. That will also include options for digital mobile, paper-based, and in-person surveys. With at least a Spanish language translation for the survey as well. And there'll be a broader open call with a particular effort on targeted outreach to underrepresented parts of our community. So just wanted to touch on that. We're trying to make it as plain language as possible. We're trying to make it as short as possible while still trying to get as much information out of it, which is the fun balancing act. Anyway, just wanted to share a little bit about the planned outreach on that. We just to tie a couple of that advisory policy operations conversation that we had early on back together here. I just want to know if you're at all unsure if something is a policy conversation or operations or advisory, just ask. Like, don't feel like you have to guess. Like, every board is navigating that in different ways. You can ask you can ask Ronnie, you can ask Christina, you can ask myself, but more like just ask. Don't feel like you have to dance around whether it's going to be something that is sensitive or not. We're pretty direct with folks, and is something an advisory or operational impact or policy decision can sometimes be perceived, can sometimes be subjective, and can sometimes be a fine line. So anyway, don't want to make you dance unnecessarily. Feel free to reach out. If you love dancing, go for it. Got a couple questions from residents, including a couple senior residents on the storm debris pickup process, and I just wanted to share a quick update on that. From as of Monday morning, 9th Street and North has been collected, and a few pockets within neighborhoods south of 9th Street. The whole city is still expected to get a pickup, and just since there's labor effort that goes into this, it can be unsettling and can obstruct some of people's sidewalks and how people navigate. Just wanted to let people know, and as representatives of the community and ambassadors for different neighborhoods, that is still, the city still plans to pick up those piles. My house has not been picked up either, so it's truly nothing personal.
Ours has done.
Okay,
Yeah.
so working for the South, that's great.
We're working.
Yeah, so anyway, just to let people know if they do ask or if they're wondering, over the next week and a half, it should be complete. But the city is still working through collecting that. Parts of North Longmont and like Central Longmont, particularly historic West Side and East Side, were particularly hard hit with some very large trees, and so there's just a finite capacity to pick up in any given week or day. So that is still happening, and it will continue to. And then lastly, I just wanted to note, kind of piggybacking off of Christina's conversation earlier on the council priorities discussion. Last night, if you are bored and are looking for a good 3-hour conversation, City Council went to 11:30 last night, really focused in a study session on council priorities for this year, following up on our retreat. Honestly, I thought it was a really fun, thoughtful conversation. We touched on a lot of different topics. You can get the Spark Notes version of that on the agenda portal last night, where you can, or just in general, where you can see like the short bullet list of what most of the topics largely encapsulated. But I did want to piggyback a theme that I offered, and I think a couple other council members brought to the table, was on community resilience. Looking at that from an environmental resilience, a social resilience, and an economic resilience standpoint, as kind of maybe a driving organizing principle. It's nothing's been like formalized there. Like, we're not saying that as our new charter, but like in terms of an organizing theme of what we're looking at that resilience throughout our community in different ways, and how people are supported, and the services that we're providing and the types of projects that we're doing, are those supporting a longer term resilience of our community, from infrastructure to services.
Matthew, didn't you, I thought I read in the paper, you were kind of spearheading something to do, maybe piggybacks on what Boulder County's doing with better regulating data centers and even, in their case, data centers and prisons, I think it was. But data centers.
Yeah, I just saw that article in the county. I can speak to that in a moment. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so just hold that thought for a second. A couple other things that I know this board is interested in. You've had presentations and discussions on transportation and traffic safety, housing, sense of place, affordability. All of that really came, I think, is very much reflected in our kind of core priorities of programs, policies, and projects that we discussed last night, in I think a very logical and reasonable way for us, and frankly ambitious. I think there's some really ambitious things that are that we're going to be working towards and are working towards. First in Maine, the transit station is like the most concrete version of that, but that has transportation and regional connectivity opportunities. It has spillover effects with the Front Range Community College campus. There's housing that's integrated out. There's economic reinvestment and business support that's going into that. There's sustainability components going into that. There's the connection of Kaufman Street all the way down to the Greenway that will be completed as a result of that project too. So that's, I mean, if you think about a core project that's pulling on a lot of the goals and principles that you have all talked about and that I know are important to the community, that is moving very quickly right now as well, and is still very much a front and center project for this council. happy to take questions on any of that, since you asked. Yes, I introduced two proposals at the end of April. One was to ban what we're calling hyperscale data centers and defining that at approximately 70 megawatts of electrical capacity or greater. If you don't know what that means, that's approximately 35,000 homes or households of consumption equivalent. And it's an imperfect metric, but using some of the Colorado averages, that would be kind of what you think about. 70 megawatts or, it's 100 megawatts or 5% of our utilities regional grid capacity, which would be approximately 70 megawatts. So whichever's lower is how we're defining that currently. The second proposal was to regulate and update our standards for those smaller scale data centers. Some of which we have in our community already and have for years. They support critical infrastructure, public safety, regional economic competitiveness, the biotech corridor that's around, and figuring out kind of what's the right Longmont size types of facilities that we can handle, and in some cases might actually enhance our grid resilience, might enhance our baseload generation, which can help with the overall rate basing for affordability of our rates. Sometimes very large customers can actually be helpful in that way of kind of averaging out so that the burden doesn't fall on all of us individually. So we're looking at kind of what types of facilities will work for us, what will meet our standards, and then what don't we want, or what's a disproportionate risk. And so that's kind of how we're thinking about it. I believe the hyperscale ban will be on second reading next week. The standards and regulations is going to take a much longer process and go through multiple advisory boards, including, I think, planning and zoning, sustainability, and I think Longmont Economic Development Partnership as well. So there's going to be two different conversations, one much more nuanced, one more of like, hey, we're going to draw a line here. That also follows the state legislative session, and if you didn't track that religiously, that's okay. There were two bills on data centers at the state legislation, neither of which passed. One was creating economic incentives to draw data centers to our state. One was setting environmental standards for data centers. Neither of those passed. So in the absence of that especially, we're going to set up some parameters for ourselves. And it's going to be an evolving industry. Data centers come in all shapes and sizes and purposes. And so we're going to continue to kind of follow how that industry evolves as well. Does that speak to?
Yeah. Are you seeing that kind of that momentum in those proposals that you've made? Do you see that kind of replicating across the Front Range, or are we kind of
starting to see a couple of things? Denver, I know a bunch of communities are putting in moratoriums around the country, like a year or 6 month moratorium while they can wrestle with this. From my perspective, we could say no now, but we also control more utilities than most communities do. When you think electric, water, sewer, fiber, or with NextLight, though technically they wouldn't have to use NextLight. That's an opt-in, and we control the land use planning for the city too process. So there would be a few exceptions where maybe if you truly brought your own system for everything, you wouldn't have to interact with our utilities. And so that's where we're setting a couple parameters to just further make sure we're capturing kind of everything within the possible purview for
where they're building their own generation.
Yeah, there are some data centers across the country building their own power plants that are just independent of the grid. And the regulations for that vary just depending on the state and the air quality permits that they need or don't need for this.
I've seen the IR footage from some of those drones.
Yep. So I think the approach that we're taking is going to allow us to look at the nuanced use cases at kind of a small to medium scale facility more holistically, and say, hey, what's going to work for us and what parameters do we want to set? And then say, there are there are many being proposed now that are massive, and really, the 70 megawatts upwards start to pose more challenges. And again, that can get very large very quickly in some communities, and is challenging from an environmental justice standpoint, a resource consumption standpoint, and an overall land use decision. So, fortunately, I think Longmont is in a fairly robust place there because we manage our electric utility and our land use planning and our water utilities, but that doesn't mean that something couldn't slip through the cracks. And so
Yeah.
this is another guardrail that we're trying to put in place and to better manage that.
Thank you.
Yeah. Other questions about the broader priorities that I was talking about there? Other questions about anything else?
Thank you for the support on the survey.
Of course.
All right. Area Agency on Aging. I missed the meeting in May, haven't seen minutes yet.
I've got it.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
Oh, but somebody does. That's
Yeah.
nice.
So, it was my first AA meeting, and I must say, they have good food there.
So you're gonna go now, right?
So I'll probably go again.
Invite us.
So what we discussed was long-term care ombudsman, which are advocates for vulnerable community members. Basically, if you are in a nursing home or assisted living and you're having problems, you can go to these advocates who will interact with the management of these organizations for you. So that was really interesting. There are 3,000 residents of Boulder County living in long-term care, 11 nursing homes, and 28 assisted living situations in Boulder County. So we discussed that and how that worked. We are required by the state to have those advocates either as employees or volunteers to represent all of those people in those facilities. So that was one. And it was good. It was a great presentation. Met some of the ombudsmen, and they talked about their work and what's going to go on in the future as the Boulder County has less money and has to depend more on volunteers for that work. Second thing we talked about was the contact with the Well-Mind Connection, which is mental health advocates for people who can just call in and that information. The third thing we talked about was guardianships, conservationships, POAs, MPOAs, and more by a guy named Scott Beard, who's an attorney who works in Boulder County, has an office in hygiene. And he talked about some of the different options that you have at end of life, how you want your estate done, your wills, your trust. So that was that part. So that was AA, and they're having another meeting this Friday. I think I'm gonna probably just dial in for this one.
They talk about the impact of some of the budget cuts. I know that's been brought up at other meetings.
Yes, they did. And they're already figuring out what they're gonna do with, because they're gonna have to downsize, they just don't have the money. Because
The last meeting I went to, there was somebody that'd been there for 17 years, had been cut because of budgets, and they expected more to come.
yeah,
Impact on staff.
yeah, they did talk about that, and it's unfortunate, and they're gonna just have to depend on more volunteering.
I shared with the Friends Board the impact that's gonna have on our staff, right? We're still gonna only be able to do what we can. There's only so many hours and appointments within a day that we can meet. It just means that wait list may grow, right? So that's why the request for 2 resource specialists was made and so important.
Okay. Questions?
Thank you. John?
Yeah.
Give it, John.
Friends of Longmont Senior Center. So I'm not gonna go through all this. A lot of it actually Ronnie covered, because Ronnie had made it, when Brandy and Ronnie were at the Friends meeting, they covered a lot of the priorities for the budgeting process, so I'm not gonna go through all that. One thing I did wanna point out, under the new business section, I thought it was interesting, the challenges that we're seeing with Social Security related issues. Ronnie, I think Randy brought this one up, didn't she? And she brought up the example of a Latino family that was flagged by Social Security for changes in their immigration status. And their Social Security payments were stopped pending resolution of status. They're seeing more of that. That's obviously a troubling trend
Yeah.
that we're seeing. I've noticed too in the SCTC, when we help seniors, we're getting more seniors come in with challenges with Social Security. Social Security obviously is forcing people to go online, and some of the seniors are having trouble with navigating Social Security online, so we're trying to help them the best way we can. Under old business, I highlighted something on board recruitment. Just FYI, Friends of the Longmont Senior Center, it was to, Ruth is gonna resign at the end of the month, or end of the year, so there are,
Yeah,
end of the year. There'll be 3 open positions.
Four.
There'll be 4 now?
There's 4.
Oh,
Yeah.
4, okay.
Cause Michelle, Ruth, Roger,
And Robin just resigned.
and Robin.
Oh, Robin resigned?
She had health
issues.
Health issues.
Oh, I did not know that.
Just did it.
So,
Cool.
if you know anyone.
Okay, wow.
Any 4.
And then I was just gonna, the logos update, I don't know if you guys, I know that there were a couple of different logo options that were
Right,
presented at the last meeting.
we're still working through the final little details. Hopefully certainly by the end of this month.
Okay. I was pleased to hear about the food cart, about 40 pounds a day, I think you said.
40 pounds a day go off that food cart.
Yeah.
Started
Yesterday, I
January.
wasn't even
Started
able
January.
to finish loading the food cart before half of it was gone.
Yeah.
It's just the way it is.
Any questions?
Are we getting, specifically for the food cart, are we getting good contributions? Are we able to refill it? Or are you able to refill it?
The short answer is no. I'm getting great support from the Round Pantry, and then the organic support here from the Senior Center is a hit or miss situation. Right now I'm very short in protein. I've got canned vegetables, I've got macaroni and cheese, stuff like that, but tuna, soup, stews, hash, stuff like that. Tomorrow I put the last of what I have out, and I don't get to the food Round Pantry again until next Wednesday.
Okay.
So it's a problem.
Is the Round Pantry, is that the organization that does the church up on 15?
It's the
Yeah,
church.
yeah.
Yeah, the Presbyterian church.
Yeah, yeah, and they're wonderful. I mean, the people even look out for things that come into them that they think might be more senior center focused and all of that, so they're wonderful people, and I appreciate it greatly. I'm gonna have to reach out to some other people and so on and so forth.
Thanks.
I have a question. Is there a place on that cart to maybe put some other resources like Round Pantry, like maybe like a paper that has, you know, if you need more resources, like these are these are maybe some top 3 to also.
And we have a copy of that exists, and we put that on the wall inside the little resource nook in the lobby.
Oh, okay, so that's
we could put a
to
copy of that.
Oh, maybe put a copy
Put
of that,
Yeah.
copy of that there, that way.
Identifies all the different
All the
pantries
different,
that
and so it
exist.
kind of ties it all together. This is very convenient, and then if individuals need more,
Right.
like this
They
is
read.
when the
Food
monthly,
table is.
yeah, food table here is, and that might help a little, just a thought.
My take on the situation is that the people who do access the food cart, it is convenient because they're generally coming, many of them, not everybody, but many of them do come directly from having their main
Yeah.
meal at Meals on Wheels. However, and most cases are very aware of other resources that are available
They
to
already
them.
know.
This one happens to be very convenient. But there are some people who don't have access because they don't have transportation or that kind of thing. I've had a couple of pretty significant conversations recently. So, do what we can.
Yeah. Opportunity to advertise and promote Ride Longmont. Connect them with Eric.
Right?
He's the spokesman.
Very much.
Yeah, I mean, and there's an opportunity to we can see there's a small little flyer we can add there too, Ride Longmont for transportation, right? Low costs.
Right.
And I'm expecting an increase in impact because the Meals on Wheels now are starting to charge for every meal that they, before it was free Monday through Friday, or Monday through Wednesday. And then now it's $2 every day, which, you know, for most of us doesn't seem like a lot of money, but for people who are on extremely fixed incomes, it's,
Last I checked with Meals on Wheels, they have not seen a decline in
That's good.
participation. The same amount of
that's good.
meals have been consistent
Mhm.
since they moved back to every day being a paid meal. So that's a good sign. At the
That's a
same
good
time.
sign,
it is.
yeah.
But
It's
is
still
it sustainable?
But,
I see,
I mean,
it's
if you
still
go,
hard
if
to
you go
know.
look at the cart right now, it's,
Gone.
yeah. And I won't be able to get back there until after 3, so.
Thank you, John. Eric, sustainability?
Yeah, I missed it. So, yeah, no excuse. Was one of those days I fell asleep. So I missed it. I am in contact with Zach and I'll have a report next meeting.
John? Anything you wanna add? Employment?
Just that the senior center will be hosting the Boulder Workforce Employment Workshop. When was that?
September?
September, yeah, I think I've got it.
15th, I think, something like that.
That's not right. I'm not sure, Ronnie, if you know. I think I had it in the update.
I have it somewhere. I know Brandy mentioned that. So Brandy's working on that. So Brandy partners with them, I believe every other year, to provide a location for senior employment. So
Yeah.
Boulder County Workforce organizes different organizations that need part-time, sometimes full-time work, and we just give them some space at the senior center to have that that we'll call it a job fair, have that space for that.
Yeah, September 15th from 11 to 2 was the date that Brandy gave me.
D&E, I believe, right?
What's that?
Classroom D&E.
I don't know the room,
Mhm.
I would imagine so.
Yeah, because it kicks out our class.
Yeah.
On that day.
Yeah, that's why we know the date.
Okay, good. Liz, not escape. Dave and I are
It's all good.
anybody's
It's all-
welcome, of course.
it's
Dave
all
and I-
good.
Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say, it's all good, cause there are 5 Tuesdays in September, and normally we only go the first 4, so we're just gonna skip the 15th, and we still get our 4 sessions in,
Okay, cool.
so.
Anybody's welcome, of course. Dave and I are gonna be there. Dave and I were also at the last one that they had at the hub. That was in April. We were pretty impressed, I mean, with the employers that came. And we had discussions with them about employing seniors, and there were several, like Smuckers as an example. She was really keen on it. She's like, we've got a lot of roles at Smuckers where we think seniors could. And then St. Vrain wasn't there, but Boulder Valley School was there. And bus drivers is an example. He said a lot of our bus drivers are seniors. So I think I'm cautiously optimistic that the employers that'll be here, that there's going to be a lot of participation, and I think it's going to be good to get the senior, get people exposed to employers in Longmont and elsewhere that do hire seniors. So I'm excited.
IHOP is needing a lot of employers. IHOP.
IHOP?
Yeah.
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 That program, I said, oh yeah, they're bilingual especially, and not they need employees in IHOP.
Right. Good. That's all I got.
I think we've covered the board advocacy, talked about the survey. Anything else you wanna add there, John?
I'm board advocacy.
Dave's gonna cover that, mostly with the survey, we've already covered that.
I don't think there's anything more on the survey than what
No, I don't
we talked
think
about.
Eric, food table?
Food table, last month, we had 54 people representing 134 family members, which was considerably down from previous months. And possibly it was because the time before we had primarily produce and not the variety that we usually get. This last time, we had lots of protein, lots of different types of things, but there just weren't the people there. So that's something we probably should look into.
Yeah, what happened?
Yeah, because we had a lot of stuff. We ended up reboxing, returning a whole bunch of things.
But I think it dropped from 75 people attending to
Yeah.
55, wasn't it, Eric?
Yeah,
Yes, it's a low, we've been averaging about 72, 75
Yeah.
individuals representing. The household numbers have changed, the average household size has
That's true
changed.
too.
But that's, our first month was 50, and this is the lowest since then.
But there was something special about that day.
It was
Oh,
graduation.
it was graduation,
Yeah.
and there was
Mhm.
Yeah.
another.
Yeah, there were a lot of things going on that
Graduation.
Saturday.
And they
There was a
don't have to
competing
do-
senior event at the museum that morning.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so we'll see, and by the way, this next food table coming up marks the first year anniversary of the food table.
Mm-hmm.
So, I'm seeing Naomi tomorrow to see, we're approaching 8 or 9 tons of food in that year, I'll know more. So,
Wow.
Let's see what we can do about getting the word out again, repeating it, reminding people that the food table is gonna be
yeah,
going
we could do,
on. So
that'd be
that
great if you could let people know.
may just
I know.
spark people's
I told them,
reminders.
don't forget, this is the second Saturday, you go
Is-
early. Don't forget.
Is there any way we could make like a business card that had the times, not only of our food service, but other ones on it? And we as volunteers could hand them out in places.
Check with Naomi, they may have something like that, we've never asked her.
I don't know what
At the very
the cost
beginning,
would
but
be.
not anymore.
They used to.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah, she used to.
Yeah, she used to have a schedule
Yeah,
of what
just a
was
little-
upcoming.
Updated, because
about-
some have stopped and,
But
some
that
are
was
ongoing, so
early
we
on.
need an updated one.
Yes.
She's always, they have standing Collier Park and other places, so that's a
Yeah.
great to ask her about those.
Right, even the wine for more.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Y in Collier every weekend during the summer,
Yeah.
so.
But the wine's not doing it anymore.
Yeah, and they were doing
All
mine in, but I
right.
haven't seen
So
them
they're not even
now.
using the parking lot?
I don't think so, I don't know, I'm not sure. Are they using the parking lot, the wine, since it's closed, they just have the childcare? I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't think so, yeah.
So we need kind of an updated square to give it to people, don't forget and get, whatever.
Anything else on food table?
Hmm.
Oh, there's one coming up.
Yeah, next week on the 11th.
Who all will be there?
Same old same.
Some people. I'll put Mike down too.
Okay,
I'll be out of town.
Me too. Eric, I
We'll
won't be
have
there. I won't be there either. Be out of town.
okay.
Denise is still gone. right?
Thank you.
Please.
Thank you all for continued participation. Board updates, open discussion, do we think, I think to add, there's a
Can I?
proclamation, John? Yes.
Oh, yeah.
We're having a big Latin dance tomorrow afternoon, 4 to 6.
So you
So
could be a featured dancer, cause I saw you in your
you
Go
going?
magazine, I'm just wondering.
Are you gonna be
Sponsored
out
by
there for
Fred.
us?
Fred's
Yeah.
sponsored.
CMP.
All right.
yeah, it's gonna be fun.
The
I
Latin
wasn't gonna be
salsa
there, but I
dance
think I will.
tomorrow.
Come out there.
4 to 6.
How much
Is it here? Oh, I didn't.
You've learned a lot.
It's in the Go.
I mean,
It's
my
under-
brain
under
didn't get it.
oh.
I didn't mean it wasn't available to me.
John, anything on the
Under
proclamation?
CEP.
Yeah, I finally got, so this was interesting, so when they give you the proclamation, I thought this thing was an envelope, and I was like upset because it's glued, this page is glued to this. Turns out this is not an envelope, this is just a blue piece of paper that they fold over the proclamation.
Would you tell us how you tried to fix that the first time? Just mention
Oh.
that one, please.
So I thought it was like your normal, like an envelope with the sticky stuff, so I steamed it, and it just ruined the first one. So then she gives me this one, Erica, and I'm like, Erica, it's the same thing, she's like, oh yeah, that's how we always hand them out. So can you give me one that doesn't have the blue things stuck over the top of it? And she said, yeah, I can do that and print it out right now. And my thought is that maybe, Ronnie, we might want to put this in like a frame and frame it somewhere in the senior center. So who would these go to? You?
To the boss.
To the boss.
Did you bring the steamed one also, or you got rid of that?
I would like to
Did you-
send it to like.
I would too.
I would do that, I would give it to
You
the
want me to
boss.
write that?
Yeah, let's see here's what it says.
Okay, so it says, whereas the city of Longmont includes a growing number of older Americans who contribute their experience, knowledge, and strength to our community, and whereas this year's theme is designated to celebrate the strength of older adults and encourage them to champion their own physical and mental well-being, and during Older Americans Month, let us pause to acknowledge the contributions that older Americans can bring to our families and to our community, and older Americans have helped build our economy, defend our freedom, and shape the character of our communities. And whereas many older Americans have worked for decades to support and grow families, nurture their communities. In retirement, many continue to spend time volunteering for those in need, such as providing much needed child care or to simply be of service wherever and whenever they can. And all residents benefit when older Americans can remain vital and vibrant by aging in place within their communities and managing their physical and mental health care. And let us take time this month to recognize older Americans' contributions and to reaffirm our commitments to acknowledge and serve the older Americans in Longmont. Now therefore, I, Susie Howdoggo Faring, by virtue of the authority vested in me, and the City Council of the City of Longmont, do hereby proclaim the month of May 2026 as Older Americans Month in Longmont.
Beautiful.
Thank you, John. Future agenda items, you see the city manager is possibly on for next in Sandy Cedar. The advisory board annual review is, been pushed back from June 30th to August 11th. John and I plan on having a version of it at our meeting on the 5th. Get input from the board, anything changes you'd like to make. So, and any input you want to have as we're developing a PowerPoint, please let John or I know. Okay, Lonnie,
Okay.
you're up.
Okay. I know that outreach has had has gone in a lot of different directions. People are, they're giving their own ideas of where they want it to go and stuff. I think it's time to kind of hone it down to what we're actually looking at. And I think it's really important to remember that from the beginning, we spoke about the fact that we're doing this in baby steps. We can't go out there and we can't put out all this information about what's available in the senior center if we don't have the resources back at home to take care of new people coming in. We'd love to take care of everybody. Wouldn't it be grand if we could open up the door and have 100 resource specialists waiting to talk to people? Well, we don't have that. So the idea that we're doing this in baby steps, we have to keep that in mind. Along that line, we felt that the first thing we could do was to address the LHA, Longmont Housing Authority, senior locations. Go and speak to the buildings, to the apartment buildings that have seniors in them, to let them know what's available at the senior center. And I also want to add, because it came up a couple of times, our information may not be just what's available back at the senior center, but it may give people some sources of information that are bigger. They may find out that they can contact people in the city about having certain problems, or They may have questions that go beyond what's available here, but we may be able to help them find where they can find it in other places. So our information is not just about bring everybody in the front door here and get them all, going in all of our classes and activities and all of the resources that are available, but to make us the source of bigger information where people can ask, what do I do about this? What do I do about that? And in some cases, it's been brought up a couple of times, it could be an easy fix. It could be an easy answer. And I would like that to be part of what we become, is outreach information. So, what we're gonna do is we're going to use the summer to talk to the people at the Longmont Housing Authority buildings. We're gonna do some presentations. We're gonna kind of give ourselves an opportunity to get a little more used to what we're gonna say and a little more, practice in how we do presentations. I would love it if at each one, there was one person from the committee who actually did the presentation. Other people want to attend, that's great. We could be there just to sit and listen to it for our own education and just to support the person who's speaking. So I did include with the information on that Ronnie sent out, I did include a kind of fact sheet that included a lot of information that you could then, who's ever speaking could pick from, can decide what they're going to use to do their own speech to make it comfortable for themselves and to still kind of include all the information that may come up. Sometimes it'll just be helpful to have the paperwork with you so you could touch on some things, and as the Q&As come up for that particular location or that particular group that we're speaking to, then we can address those in more detail. But you don't have to address all the detail in all the speeches because it probably isn't appropriate or needed. So the summer is going to be used for that. I contacted Guillermo, who informed me that I told him we wanted to look into talking to the Neighborhood Group Leaders Association. And I thought that maybe sometime in the fall would be good for that. And he let me know that September meeting of the NGLA is actually a community fair, a resource fair that they have during their meeting. So he asked if we could have a table and have information there. I thought that's perfect. That's exactly what we're gonna do. So in talking to make sure Christina and Ronnie know what's going on, if you let us know that we're okay to do that, we'll move forward with planning on being there, representing the senior center and having information available.
What was that?
And this is for that resource,
That resource
okay,
fair,
gotcha.
right, cause it's here, right? Isn't it
Is
here?
he planning it as a thing?
You said in September?
So
Yeah,
right, that's.
he said I think he said the third Thursday of September. That's normally the meeting is the third Thursday of every
So
month.
it'll be in the evenings.
So he said during the September meeting
17?
would be the resource.
No, sorry, NGLA, they are starting to meet at the Civic Center now because they've grown
Oh, wow, okay.
so much, so it's, my assumption
Okay,
is that it's
I
at the
will
Civic
check that
Center,
out
but
with
I
him
will
now.
confirm that.
Thursday,
Yeah,
tomorrow,
yeah, but I
this is
think
great.
so. I don't think
Yeah,
it's-
no, it's
not
just
yet.
Alex Chios.
Okay, I will definitely check in with him on that one. And then I said, well, how about if we do another day, another meeting of just our presentation to all the NGLA meeting members? And he said we could do it in October if we wanted. So I thought that was pretty good that we could have two opportunities to talk to people and to kind of connect with them. One being that we do a fair, the other being that we actually do a presentation. Okay, so are we okay to plan on moving ahead with that?
So for those two absolutely, because that fair, it's just the board as a representation in that space to bring that awareness for outreach. So absolutely for that one is a city event, and then the other one is a presentation to their board. Absolutely, you can schedule that.
Okay.
There's no special rules around that, right, Christina? If a board is presenting to another board, and if there happens to be more than two at a public meeting, right, they're just presenting to the board.
That I'm not sure, that would be a
So
good
I'll ask-
question for Dawn.
I'll ask that one.
So
Okay.
I think it's the one in potentially in October was presenting to the NGLA members, the 45 neighborhoods that are represented. I don't think it
So
was.
I have to check
Yeah,
on that.
I don't think
So,
it's
and if it's
to a
already-
board, from one board to another. I think it's to their membership.
So it would depend on how many advisory board members.
Right. So
So you don't think we can send more than two?
Well, you can, as long as it's public, as long as it's,
Cause it is
Recorded.
being,
Cause it is a
it's publicly
publicly,
meeting.
I don't know.
Publicized
and do
meeting,
we need to
right?
add in
Publicized,
one
but it's not
meeting
taped.
to make sure
Right,
that
that's
it
right.
reflects that? I would just connect
yeah,
with
just
Dawn.
those details,
Okay.
absolutely.
Just-
Just so it's done correctly.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
sure, that sounds fine with me. And the second thing is, we wanna move forward, although I understand it's not using resources from the staff, and it's not using a lot of financial resources. What are our options to start getting a flyer together that we can use to give out, not necessarily at the, Longmont, Housing Authority locations, but if we go outside that to civic groups and things like that.
Mhm.
Including what we said also is to add to the flyer a QR code, so we're not giving out
Right.
any of the books or anything like that.
So we can look at a couple different things, right? Last year, budget came down to the last dollars. It was very, very, very tight. So we could look at that. Another option is digital resources, right? Could we look at creating a digital flyer and focusing on the QR code? If we had something that is a physical copy instead of a whole sheet of paper, could it be 4 different, be able to cut it up and have
Quarters.
4 flyers, you're right, versus just it being its own document.
Sure.
So, I mean, good opportunity for us to start looking at that. It gives me a chance to examine what options and resources we have available to support, and then we can figure out what that could be. So, what can the board do in real time? Definitely start looking at both options of if we were to do quarters. What needs to be in here so it's not a 5-page book, right? What can be captured here? And then also creating a full sheet, one that could be a digital copy, that could be the QR code option for more information, So
Okay.
those can be explored right now. That could be explored in real time,
Good.
and figuring out what we could do with that once we have those.
Okay. How about if we consider looking at the sheet that I had Ronnie send to you guys about, and you guys didn't get it, and I am so sorry. I was gonna send it to you separately, and then my brain went elsewhere, so I didn't get it out to you. I will do that this afternoon. Side note, we're speaking tomorrow at the Village on Main. Would you guys like to have the Friends represented?
I think that's probably too fast a turnaround
I
for us to
figured.
Yeah.
I figured.
get
Well,
somebody.
one of the reasons I'd like to have Friends link up with our, our outreach committee is to be able to let people know about that they can donate. We
We
go
would
to
like that.
groups like civic groups, and they wanna say, oh yeah, it's great, get all excited about what's going on at the senior center, you can hit them with and the best way to donate is. So that's not gonna be really relevant for Longmont Housing Authority properties. So I don't think it's as important to get you looped in then, but I think come September, if you guys could keep in mind what the activity or what the fair is and be included in that.
Mhm.
And then in October, what the annual or the monthly meeting is and be included in that, I think would be helpful.
Lonnie, I was
Okay.
gonna be there tomorrow. Actually, the question I have for Christina or Ronnie, if I went there as the from the advisory board, not to participate, just be in the audience. If John and Lonnie there, might be in the audience, doesn't matter from a sunshine law standpoint, does it? I'm not,
Could you go as a friend board member?
well, that was my next question, just,
Make it
okay.
easy.
I'll go as a friends board member instead, so I can speak to whatever the friends might just say. So I'll be there
Might
tomorrow.
be the easiest.
Okay, I'll be there tomorrow as a
You
friend,
think?
I agree.
not scab.
Okay,
So,
all right, good.
and
Good,
unaccustomed as
that'll
I am
be
to public
fine.
speaking, I'll be happy to toss out some tidbits.
Okay. So what do people think, looking at the sheet that I put down as far as what we could use as bullet points to speak of, what do we think are the important items that we need to have in this little blurb that we're gonna hand out at meetings to give people a condensed version of information for the senior center? Does anybody?
What you mentioned earlier, narrowing it down, and the answer to that is gonna depend on what do you wanna focus on right now.
Right, that's what we're deciding right here.
So,
What do we wanna focus on?
yeah,
Well, I think the services are absolutely important. What services are available at the senior center? And then, here, let's look at this.
So I might have a.
Right, exactly.
I might have an option for you. So this is good for that one page handout we were talking about, right? Brandy has something that I can share to you to review, and I can share for the board's feedback as well, if they want to use that in this space. On side mission and quest was to create something that lives here at the senior center, something quick and easy that even the city can use for different resources as well, to share who we are as senior services and what comes out of here. And it's just a really small graphic that has, think of it like a web. The different things that come out of here: advisory board, friends board, supportive services, recreation services, Meals on Wheels, and it's just 2-3 words for each one. That we're gonna clean, that she's gonna work with a small team to kind of clean up again, so it's not over relaying information. It's not an eyesore, right? It's something that's just real quick and easy that someone can in 10 seconds learn what we do, what we offer, and that would create an opportunity for that little graphic. If we did those quarters that we were just talking about, a visual representation, easier on the eyes, catches attention, can connect to the digital copy, a QR code or something that can take them to the detail breakdown of each one of those.
So there would be a QR code on the quarter?
It could exist, right? It could be in there as well. And so, opportunity for us to look at that. So I could send that along with Councilmember Popkins' availability, since I'll be emailing the board on his availability for a future meeting. I can add that as an attachment there for everybody's review as well.
Is that done? Is it done now?
The
Short version?
a short version,
Oh,
yeah.
good.
We may as well just utilize that.
Yeah.
Right, an opportunity just to, here's that quick handout, here's who we are, follow that QR, or go to our website for more information. But in those quick, and I want to say, Lonnie, I appreciate your approach on being very intentional in the process, so it's not rushed. There's opportunity for direction and focus, consistency, and a clear message in these opportunities for outreach. And thank you for being mindful of the impact that could have on their experience walking through the door if they are, learning about supportive services, those resources that are available, but then learning in real time that now we have a 6-week wait to receive that support.
That's what we don't want to do.
Right, and so this approach with that graphic, with this information, just brings that awareness, right, of who we are, what we offer. And I'm sorry, where was I leading with that? Your systematic approach, just being very intentional, of it not being rushed, us making sure we have the information in place, whoever's doing the outreach is informed, because what we want to be experts of the information that we are presenting on. We don't have to be experts in everything listed here,
Exactly.
right? But we need to have those key pieces of information so we know what to communicate, how to communicate, and now we're not leaving a bunch of open-ended questions to where we have an overflow of phone calls at the front desk now, and we're talking about like capacity, the positive work of the impact some of those things would have, right?
Right.
And so I just want to say I appreciate us being very intentional in that process, but I think you got a lot of good things in place. And it starts with those small presentations, just surface level information on Friends, advisory, resource services, recreation services, Meals on Wheels. And then, because of all of these things, this is what we build. We build community, we build connection, the opportunity to learn, to interact, to learn new skills, to dance, right? All of these things. And so it's more of a general, at that point, turns into a general presentation, surface level information, but when you have your own time now, you can, here's those 2 pieces of resources of information. Do a deeper dive if you're interested, right? And so I think the approach you have is what, well, my opinion, what would work best in this work.
Good. Because I wanted to keep it slow. I didn't want to rush forward and then be literally, letting the door open to a ton of people because we gave them information, but finding out they can't use it because they're
Right.
going to wait 8 weeks for an appointment.
And Meals on Wheels. So an example, like we were pretty well versed on what happens through our recreation services and our sport services, but an opportunity to, in that process from now till October, learn more about Meals on Wheels. We learned that it is now a paid service, right? I was able to inform everybody today that since then they have not seen a decline in participation, so we know, right? I can provide more information on the increases that they've seen over the years, what options exist, how many more people are coming on site for that service, but home deliveries, right? And so I can inform in those spaces, so we have more than that surface level handout and some things that might not be listed here, but you have that foundational
Right.
knowledge of information for each one of those categories.
Yep, and as we find out it can be added, it can
Right.
just be added,
Right.
Nothing's
So-
set in stone.
So an opportunity to really learn on those things that we're talking about, absolutely.
And I would like it to get to the point where we're letting people know about being able to rent the rooms. So it may create some revenue.
And
We
can
we've
do
got
all
a
of these
really good
things,
place
right?
for meeting rentals, and not only can it be used for instruction, but it can be used for, outside groups, civic groups, things like that, just renting a room,
Right.
so that they can do.
Right, and
Do your deal.
and we have that expert in the room, so the board can learn more about those details of what Bianca sees in those reservations. Who is
Right.
reserving it? How many more is she seeing in those increases? What rooms are being utilized more than the others? And so an opportunity to learn about each one of those things.
And ultimately, if there are groups, civic groups, things like that, who say, hey, we really want to support the senior center, how can we do it? Here's the way to make a donation.
Yeah.
As a group,
You got it.
if
And
you
then-
like what you hear, here's the way to make a donation.
See,
And I'd like to add that to
You
it
got
too,
it, Lonnie.
eventually.
You got it. I love it.
Keep building that revenue, keep seeing revenue opportunities that are not taking away from anything, but actually giving to the senior
I
center.
think you're.
I'd like to hear that a lot.
You hit it on the head.
Yeah.
I'll tell you.
So they can't advertise in the Go magazine, but they can rent space, right, as a revenue creator.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Absolutely.
Right.
Good thinking. All right.
So I think that's about it. I'll get with Ronnie and we'll look at what we're gonna do as far as the flyer. I will get you guys all the information I have, so you'll have it this afternoon, and I apologize for not getting, I even have a little separate group for you guys alone, so I always make sure I send it to, email it to you guys too, so I will do that. And, I like where we're at as far as where we've come to today, because I felt like we were we needed to be kind of honed in on deciding what direction we're gonna go in. And this gives us till September that we do our first official, outreach presentation, and that'll be at the at the fair.
You also have, the Friends are gonna be going to Chamber of Commerce meetings. The rest of the year, every Chamber of Commerce meeting, there's trying to get friends to participate.
Okay,
And I'm going to, Costco is gonna be there, whatever, you might wanna
Okay.
get with friends to talk about people from the board going to represent.
how often are those meetings?
Monthly.
I'll send you a
Okay,
list,
good.
I'll send you the list.
Because one thing I'd also like to do is to get our outreach group to be the pros, to be the ones that on a dime, they can say, hey, by the way, there's an event going on in 2 weeks, good. Let's get there, let's put a table up, let's put some
Yeah.
flyers out, let's talk senior center.
And that's really things that staff doesn't have the capacity
No.
Right.
to do.
They don't.
And so that, and it's needed, so that's amazing.
Yeah.
I remember a couple of years ago, and I first brought up the idea of outreach. People were like, whoa, we have absolutely no time to do it. And I was like, well, sure, but is there anybody that does? Or is there anybody that could be doing it? And it came back to the board. So that's why it's always been in the back of my mind to get involved with outreach, because we can be the voices for the senior center.
Yeah, the friends.
That's your advocacy role.
Yep,
Yep.
the friends
Exactly.
just did a presentation to the Rotary in Niwot, and they asked, could you, just as an introduction, they asked us to come back and speak. Love to have someone from the board, some members of the board, be there also, because it gives everybody a really, we have friends, we have the advisory board,
Yep.
it's a cohesive group, so.
And
awesome.
what I'll do is when I contact everybody, I'll let people have the opportunity to say, I am interested in being a speaker. I would like to speak at a meeting. And then as the meeting opportunities come up, I can start filling people's, chances in, or filling them in to speak at different meetings.
I'll send you the list of the friends, it's a morning chamber meeting and an evening chamber meeting, so I'll send you the list, and you can dispense it as you like,
Okay?
Business before hours and business after hours.
yes.
Okay.
And in that process, Lonnie, as you're starting to kind of build things out, and we talked about, as you said, being experts in those the pieces of information, and I'll be able to give that information. Make sure you're just collecting lists from that group that you're working with. Send me those list of questions of what has the growth been for home deliveries, for Meals on Wheels. How many more new clients has Resource Services seen in the past year, right? And I can give you those, and that's where we get that at. By asking those deeper level questions, higher level questions, is where we become the experts of
Right.
seeing the growth, how many people have come in the door.
And we could have like a shared FAQ.
Got it.
And just keep adding the information on so that whoever needs the information can get the real-time updated version and know exactly what they're speaking of.
You got it, Lonnie. You got
Sounds
it.
good?
Awesome.
Okay.
And on that note,
On that note, I am finished. Thank you very much, everybody. And thank you for your kindness while I've been out. I really appreciated that card. That still sits, it hangs on my cabinet in my kitchen. I just laugh every time I see it. I don't know, you guys, yeah, you did see it because you signed it, but it was just so sweet to get that. I thought that was so
How are you
kind.
doing?
I'm okay. It's just taken a long time. It's
yes.
gonna be another 2 months in the sling and PT, so it's a tough one.
That BT, they're throwing that thing all over the place, aren't they?
No, but thank God, no pain, no gain is no longer the attitude.
This is
Yeah, that doesn't work. Motion for
Kind of
adjournment?
decided that doesn't work too well, so.
Second? All right, we are adjourned.